Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.
We welcome you back to London as the 2016 World Ultimate and Guts Championships continue from the Watford Training Complex in England. Evan Lepler and David Price alongside for a men's division power pool showdown between the hometown country of Great Britain and the challengers from Colombia. And David, Great Britain has had its ups and downs, but so far has gone through regular pool play without a loss. We saw Colombia fall to Australia, but they took down Spain in an exciting second half yesterday afternoon to advance to the power pools. And this should be an interesting matchup and a test for the home country, your country, Great Britain.
I agree entirely. These two teams have very different styles of ultimate. We're going to see a very quick and very agile team in the Colombians who will prefer the shorter game, and if they do huck it, it'll be very quick and very late in the throwing, whereas Great Britain, a very traditional ultimate team, they're going to be looking to look to their tall receivers, the likes of Rob Schumacher, Justin Ford, and Magnus Wilson, who can do some fantastic work in the air.
I'm not sure if we'll see Justin Ford and Mauricio Martinez match up together one-on-one, but those are two of the special players in the men's division. Justin Ford has made a name for himself on the international stage over the past half decade. And for Colombia, Mauricio Martinez, the guy they call Choco, so far in the tournament, nobody in the men's division has scored more than him. He's got 6 goals and 11 assists. Or am I mistaken that? 6 goals and 11 assists, 17 total points through 4 games, and that leads the men's division for Colombia. This is Pool K, the Power Pool K in the men's division, featuring Great Britain, Belgium, Colombia, and Singapore. So the Brits already with victories in the tournament over Finland, Ireland, I beg your pardon. Let me correct myself. Great Britain with victories over South Africa, Latvia, and Lithuania, 15-4, 15-4, and 15-8. And now Great Britain will be tested against Colombia, along with Belgium and Singapore, as they try to work through the rigors of Pool K. The winners of the pools in the men's division: USA, Australia, Great Britain, Belgium, Canada, Japan, Germany, and Switzerland. So day 3 of our coverage from London. We are on field number 2 for GB in the blue and Colombia in the red, and we are actually a couple minutes tardy at beginning this game. 11:30 local time here in London. We welcome those of you back in North America on the East Coast of the United States. Those up bright and early, 6:30 a.m. Perhaps some folks on the West Coast who are up really late and have not yet gone to bed on Monday night. Now there's Colombia, coached by Andres Angel. This Colombian ultimate has really taken great strides, and in the mixed division, these two teams met at the World Games in Colombia, in Cali. And Colombia will pull, and we are off. What kinds of things, David, will you be looking for early in the game?
I'm going to be looking to see how both teams are playing defensively. As I've already mentioned, their offensive styles are very different. I just want to see how they match up, and also how they take out some of their bigger players. The likes of Ford and Schumacher are keys to how this Colombian team could upset this Great Britain team.
Good disc movement so far from GB. This is Schumacher, and the Colombians have put sight Agudalo. The breeze has picked up a little bit more than it was whistling around 9:30 a.m. here a couple hours ago. So Great Britain will maintain the disc after a call on the field. Matt Parslow with possession. Many of these members of Great Britain are from the Clapham team, but they have also integrated some non-Clapham players to try to make the full national team stronger in 2016. Schumacher. And he turfed it, but there was a reason for it, and a foul on the play. Justin Ford not on the field for this first offensive point. So far, some pretty steady defense from the Colombians. On the near sideline, Magnus Wilson, Ashley Yo, and a rising backhand hauled in by Schumacher. And you could feel that coming, couldn't you? Colombia with relentless pressure downfield. It's Mario O'Brien who pays it off with a D.
Yeah, straight off the bat, ferocious defense from the Colombians. Very tight on their man. Now a chance to break.
David Buitrago back to O'Brien. Rising backhand. Avila shoots it to the end zone, and it's Agudelo who registers the goal. A break for the Colombians to start.
Yeah, straight from the pickup there. Gets it to Mario O'Brien, who I think is going to be a very important player in this Colombian team. Gets it to this sideline and just sees that poach, and a very unorthodox throw there across the stack, knifes into the front of the end zone, and Colombia surprisingly breaking early in this game.
Well, Mario O'Brien, of course, a transplant. He has done a lot of coaching down in Colombia. Now a Seattle resident, but he played at University of Wisconsin Eau Claire alongside Jake Henderson, who's now the coach of Team USA Mixed. O'Brien has created a great program of ultimate coaching, Rise Up. He's become a mentor of many players and coaches around the world, and we've seen all sorts of ultimate coaching proliferate around the globe. So much of it has been focused on players and developing players, but also Mario O'Brien and several other influential ultimate minds have really taken time to think about how to develop coaches. And in the long run, developing coaches might be even more important than developing players.
Yeah, I entirely agree, and you'll hear a lot of talk from people like Liam Kelly and Brummy here in the UK, who are very keen on making sure that we have a system for coaching here as well.
So Justin Ford is on the field for this second offensive point for GB. Ashley Yo dishes it off. Lloyd Cheeseman to Ford. Agudelo chasing Ford. Andres Angel, the Colombian coach, talked about how important it would be to try to match up with Ford, but he acknowledged they'd have to throw multiple guys at him because they didn't have anyone who could match his overall skill. Here's a Huck looking for Ford. Can he get there? The bid, and he falls just shy of the disc. Tremendous effort from Ford, but the throw just a smidge too long from one of the co-captains' cross.
And we're going to see that connection a lot. These two play very often on Clapham. You can see Lloyd giving the disc to cross and immediately knows that Justin is free deep, just unable to get to the outstretched arms.
Aside from Ford, who are the other most important pieces if GB is going to win this game?
I think we're going to see a lot of the likes of Ashley Yo, who was key in the GB's run on the beach as well. and there are some very good younger U23 players that will see the likes. Oh, and the disc is up.
Just off the hands of Agudelo. Great Britain will take over.
So just continuing there, some of the U23s that we're going to see are the likes of Ben Parsons and Thomas Cartwright from Chevron. Very useful utility players who are going to do some great stuff for this line that we see right now.
Here's Ford underneath. Ford with a big backhand fake. Let's rip the flick. Huck. Oh, indeed, but caught anyway. It was the layout bid of Jair Roa that deflected it, but Great Britain stays with it. Benjamin Funk. Was that to Hayden Slaughter? Or no, to Ashley Yo for the score. Tremendous effort on the bid, but it's all for naught. So that's a hold for GB. We're tied at 1.
Colombia really not making it easy for Great Britain, though. That bid was fantastic. Unfortunate, but already turning this O-line in the first point and then continuing to do so in this point. GB must be a little bit worried that they're not able to hold their offense as easy as they'd like to.
So the first offensive point here for Colombia. A lot of veterans on the offensive line. Andres Angel talked about how this team is kind of a confluence of multiple generations of Colombian skills. Some of the veterans who were playing 8 years ago in Vancouver, and some young studs that, if Colombia ever plays Ultimate in the Olympics, could be impactful players then. Mauricio Martinez has been so critical to the offense for the Colombians. He's in the middle of the field, marked by Phil Garner. David Price, you have watched this Great Britain team as much as anybody. On the defensive side of the disc, who can make life difficult for you? They look for Martinez, and well, there's one of them. Clearly Garner is part of that club.
Yes, Phil is definitely one of those players. We'll also see next-gen alum Ollie Gordon making some massive bids, as well as Tom Abrams. Those three Clapham players, well known for their defensive prowess. And now on offense, we can see Dom Clark as well, good friend of Justin Ford, pushing this disc through to get this break back for GB.
They are down a break at the moment. Colin Shaw with the disc as play comes to a halt. The D from Philip Tank Garner from London. Played at Oxford University, was part of the GB U23 team at Worlds in Toronto. Played at Euros in Copenhagen in 2015 as well. Gordon had it point blocked. That doesn't happen to him very often. Colombia moving the disc well. This is an offensive point for the team in red. Colombia game against Spain, they were tied 9-9, 10-10. It wasn't until around 10s or 11s that they broke free, winning 15-12. That was a game to advance into the power pools. Up the line they go. Juan Felipe Diaz. Back to Ivan David Alba. It was the injury to Alba that really took Colombia off kilter in their game against Australia. Here's Choco. Mauricio Martinez needs a reset, gets it. Alba. Good disc movement here from the Colombians, and perhaps a pick call and a stoppage.
So what you're seeing a lot from GB here on defense is as the players rush through, they're doing what's called buzz switching, where the man who was on the mark will take the man down the line. This is to stop any power play continuing through. And that happened once or twice in that previous point, particularly from Abrams looking over his shoulder and checking the options upfield.
That can create confusion on both sides. Afanador dishes for the goal, but there was a stoppage beforehand and a traveling violation or a push-off foul. Shaw on the mark against Afanador, simply known by his teammates as Afa. Red zone offense from Colombia. And it's intercepted. Tom Abrams picked it off, but perhaps a call will nullify the turnover. We'll see. This is round 2 of the day, the 3rd day of competition here at WUGC 2016. 4 years ago, we were in Sakai, Japan. 4 years before that in Vancouver. And a very aggressive mark leads to a foul. That's Big Sam Bowen on the mark, 6'3", plays for Chevron, and he lives in Dubai. This is Julio Duque. Pedro Torres swings it well. Ivan David Alba. Another good mark to deny that high release he wanted, and miscommunication leads to a turn. GB with a relentless pressure on the goal line, never giving in. Abrams thought about it, plays it back for Meade. Near sideline, it's Bowen. A 10-yard gainer. Shaw looking long, angled perfectly for the score. Shaw to Abrams, 2-1, Great Britain back on serve.
And that relentless defense on the end zone there. GB able to hold and did some very clever work on the resets. You could see Meade and Dom Clark just stopping the resets being as easy as the Colombians wanted and forcing that miscommunication. On offense, Shaw doing a fantastic job there, that beautifully weighted huck to Abrams in the end zone.
This Great Britain team is not coached. They're captain-led by Ford and Cross, some of the other veterans with critical voices as well. Watched a good bit of GB against Latvia yesterday, and it was a close game early in windy conditions. I think through the first 7 scores, there were no breaks, all downwind deliveries. But perhaps around 4-3, Great Britain finally broke and took half either 8-3 or 8-4 and went on to win in the vicinity of 15-8 to clinch the top spot in the pool. The expectations of Great Britain in this tournament certainly are high. They're playing at home. They have battled against the world's best teams. It's funny almost that one of their trademark games was a loss, Clapham falling to San Francisco Revolver, but a 17-16 classic in Letgo. Do you have a sense, David, of what just the mindset is for the leaders of this Great Britain team? Are they expecting to be in the championship game in the semifinals, or is that the long-term goal? How confident are these guys heading into the week?
I think with the mixture of that revolver game and the final in Sakai, this team, I wouldn't say expect.
There's a a turnover in the end zone. GB with a good defensive pressure again.
I wouldn't say they expect to be in the final, but they have definitely worked aiming for that in mind. They definitely wish to get to quarters and then take it from there. And they have been training relentlessly hard for 2 years now as a national squad. And they pride themselves in having that training at that level. I mean, as Clapham, they pride themselves having the best training in Europe. They're now trying to have the best training in the world.
Certainly would make for exciting atmosphere conditions at Allianz Park if GB advances all the way to the title game. USA and Canada have to be two of the favorites. GB did go to the finals, of course, though, in Sakai, beating Sweden in the semifinals. Knocked off Japan, I believe, in the quarters. In a very windy game. How did were you in Sakai? No, you were not. How have the first few days of the tournament here in London compared to the first few days of the tournament in Lecco in terms of teams feeling each other out and getting to know their surroundings and getting comfortable?
I think fairly similarly. We've had a rain delay, which is very similar to what we had in Lecco, but this is a whole nother level. I mean, there in Lecco we're talking club teams, and there are many more players from the same country. But the elite stance of these teams is a whole nother thing. But as always, the Americans dominating on the field, and the results can show that. I think the highest score against an American team is 11 in the Women's Masters. All of them making 15.
Great Britain was broken in the game's first point, but now looking for its third straight goal and its second straight break. Some contact near the goal line. Should not be any contest on the foul. Andrew Hillman with the disc. But a violation on the restart. We are field level under a tent adjacent to the primary showcase field. This is number 2. And certainly an exciting matchup of two countries that have aspirations of rising up the world rankings. GB, after a shaky start, has scored 3 in a row with some aggressive defense and calm, composed near the goal line.
The key to that goal there was the weave there they had between Andrew Hillman, Jake Aspin, and Hayden Slaughter, doing a great job just keeping the disc moving, trying to make the Colombians guess where they're going to go next, and eventually scoring in that front corner, almost playing the Colombians' game against them. GB now up 3-1 in this powerful matchup here in London.
Does it surprise you at all that we haven't really had fast points at the start of this game? I mean, it started a couple minutes late, but we're already over 20 minutes. Only 4 points have been played. The wind is somewhat a factor, but certainly not substantial.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Evan. Earlier on in the game, we would expect, 1 or 2 pass, some long hits, particularly on the GB side of things. And I know the Colombians play a very quick game, so I would expect some faster points. But I think both teams are playing very tight defense, which is slowing each other down. Hence why we're now at 21 minutes and still only 4 scores.
So a timeout for the Colombians. We asked their head coach, Andres Angel, if they would consider mixing up some zone amongst their matchup looks against this Great Britain team, and he was very honest and said, when we go zone against the elite teams, it's not particularly effective. And I think you'll learn that more and more, especially in modest conditions. If it's torrentially windy, even the best teams can be impacted by that zone defense. But against the best teams that have confidence in their short, crisp throws, that zone might not necessarily have the same impact that you desire. There was a particularly animated Andres Angel, they call him Freehole. And he was trying to get his team jazzed up again. Meanwhile, GB looks to continue its 3-0 rally here in the first half.
If you wish to get in contact with us, please do through Twitter. Evan's handle is @EvanLepler with a capital E and a capital L. And mine is @David_Price, PRYCE. I do have a shout out for someone watching, Sam Bowen in Dubai. That's his family and friends enjoying the stream. Do tell us where you're watching in from. But GB now looking to get another break against this Colombian team.
It's a great atmosphere here on this second showcase field. Many school kids have come out on a beautiful Tuesday morning to cheer on their fellow countrymen of the United Kingdom. Colombia moving the disc. This is Andres Felipe Avila. Ivan David Alba. Zuluaga up the line. Avila. GB is a nice job holding the force until back-to-back breaks on the swing. Up the line, laying out. Ivan David Alba keeps the disc alive. Alba marked by Shaw. And contact on the mark. Dominic Clark, an aggressive mark on Zuluaga. I beg your pardon, that's David Butrigo. And a low release flick, pretty. Into the hands of Julio Duque. And that snaps a 3-0 run from GB. Canada, beg your pardon, Colombia back within one.
GB were doing a very good job of containing the quick discs from Colombia by slightly sagging off on the handlers and not allowing them to move the disc quickly from there on in. Near the end zone, that gets a bit harder, and you saw there, even though Clark was pretty close on the handler, he was able to get that quick break across and beat Shaw's man.
So GB will be back on offense after the Colombian O-line hold. The first turnover-free point of the opening half. Colombia's lone loss in pool play to the Australians, a game that was 8-7 at the half on serve. Ivan David Alba got hurt in the early portions of the second half, and it certainly did impact things for the Colombians as Australia ran off a very impressive 5 consecutive breaks to transform an 8-7 nail-biter into a 13-7 lopsided score. Some contact, but no need for a foul call if you're Matt Parslow. Ford dishes it off to Cheeseman, and there will be a foul called. Lloyd Cheeseman from Guildford, born in Brighton, played at University of Birmingham. Parslow gets a reset after looking downfield for several counts. And there was a call downfield. David, I like how both teams are dictating the level of physicality in this game. And I think both teams have had fairly aggressive marks. There have been some fouls called on the mark, but there also have been some instances where contact has not been called and the handler has basically said play on, thus indicating that there's an acceptance of the level of aggressiveness and physicality that I think both teams are fine with.
Yeah, this GB team are very much used to an aggressive mark. We see a lot of physicality between club teams in the UK, and I think both the teams also want to keep the disc moving. They don't want to concede fouls when there's no need to, and a huge bid there from Colombia, getting the disc to Cheeseman.
Cheeseman, one more. Parslow into the end zone and dropped through the hands of David Stobbs.
That doesn't happen very often. Stobbs is one of the key handlers in this GB offense, and for Clapham. He's been working very hard on his fitness in the last few months, with thanks for Fit for Ultimate.
O'Brien, first throw, layout grab. Not an easy catch there from Efrain Herrera. Three-two Great Britain. Colombia with the disc. Efrain Herrera. Stobbs went off. Cartwright entered. Still awaiting Mauricio Martinez and his first real big play of the game. You know it's going to come eventually. Felipe Diaz. Good cut to Alba. Forero. Quick toss. Colombia launches. Justin Ford there for the D for GB.
Yeah, I was watching Justin throughout that point, and he was hardly marking his man. He had the eyes on the disc. He was waiting for that deep shot to go up, and he was under it, ready straight away to pounce on it. A key substitution during that point was Stobbs for Cartwright, and we see GB taking a timeout, which is probably what they need right now after a ferocious few D points.
Timeout on the field. 3-2 Great Britain leads. We thank you for being with us here from WUGC in London. The timeout gives us a chance to tell you that the World Flying Disc Federation's free streaming coverage of the 2016 World Ultimate Championships from London is brought to you by VC Ultimate, proud to be the official merchandise partner of the World Flying Disc Federation, and by Eric, teaching youth about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics, along with the members of USA Ultimate and the World Flying Disc Federation. Evan Lepler, David Price, our statistician Kate Yeske. Colombia trailing Great Britain 3-2. In the men's division, what happened in pool play? Let's run through it real fast. Pool A, USA went 2-0. Singapore took the other top spot, Mexico going 0-2. In Pool B, it was Great Britain going 3-0, and then there was a three-way tie for second place, but with goal differential, South Africa advancing to the power pools ahead of Latvia and Lithuania. South African men taking down Lithuania 15-6. Lithuania got an upset win against Latvia 15-10. In Pool C, Canada took care of business, outscoring their opponents 45-13 in their 3 games. To compare that to USA, 30-6 in 2 games for the Americans in pool play. That also includes a 15-0 forfeit, as the Congo could not make it to the World Championships at the last minute because of visa issues. So Canada was really 30-13 in their 2 games against Sweden and Denmark. Pool D, Germany 3-0. Ireland took the other power pool position with a win over Finland. Ireland a 2-1 record in pool play, losing to only the Germans. In Pool E, the Japanese went 3-0, beating Austria, the Netherlands, and India. In Pool F, it was Switzerland going 3-0, taking down France in an exciting game, and then France over Italy in a tight one as well to advance into the power pools. And in Pool G, Australia went 3-0. In Pool H, it was Belgium narrowly getting past the Czech Republic in a 15-10 game to go 3-0. Czech Republic at 2-1, and Colombia at 2-1, only losing to Australia. So that's what happened in the 8 pools the first couple days. Now we are into the power pools, which is certainly an interesting wrinkle because it matches up the top teams against one another, and these are the teams that will be competing for a championship. It also allows some of the lesser teams, the more developing countries, to have opportunities against teams that they're capable of beating. And I mean, you know, for a developing country to get 1 or 2 wins can really make your tournament and propel the sport in your homeland.
Yeah, and just to note, one of those surprises in one of those developing nations is South Africa, coming through the power pools into the top power pool. But like you say, Evan, just a few wins can really change the way your team learns, and you can take back those experiences to your home nation and share and come back around the next time, and you'll be beating higher, better teams and work from there. And that's exactly what the likes of Colombia have done in the last decade or so, only being a relatively young nation, and now pushing GB in this first round of the power pools.
This first half has had somewhat of a disjointed feel because of the timeouts and because of the number of turnovers. Only 1 point has been turnover free. Each team has turned it over once on this point. It is an offensive point for GB. And the Brits are on the brink. Cheeseman flips it off. Cartwright into the end zone. And Great Britain has the goal to Wilson. A delayed celebration. The celebration there kind of had the same disjointed feel as this first half. We haven't really developed a rhythm as both teams have registered a break. Great Britain now 2 breaks as they lead 4-2.
Yeah, some nice work there from the Great Britain offense, taking their time, taking the definite open options. Actually, I can see the Colombians are pushing them under to try and force them not to go deep. I think the Colombians are probably worried about some of the big receivers on the Great Britain O-line. But still, the tallest player on the field, Magnus Wilson, there towing the line for the goal, and Colombia showing great spirit by signaling the goal.
Well, the Colombians have certainly made an effort to travel the world to play Ultimate and learn from other countries. They've come to the U.S. Open several years in a row. They have really made a great effort to have international teams come to Medellin for TEP, which everyone just talks about as a bucket list event to be a part of. You haven't been to TEP yet. I have not either, but hopefully one day you and I can call some of the action down in Medellin and enjoy a beverage or two. In the game adjacent to us, also a close score, as Switzerland and Sweden going head-to-head at 7-6. The Swiss in front, late stages first half, but clearly a different pace to that game, David. 7-6 versus what we've got, 4-2. If you weren't able to be with us earlier this morning, perhaps you are working, perhaps you are sleeping. both excuses are unacceptable, but a big upset in the mixed division as the Czech Republic shocked the Canadians 15-14 in just a remarkable game that had so many twists and turns and exciting plays. Lucia Shonova and David Novak were the stars for the Czech Republic mixed team. GB pressuring in pursuit of a turnover. Great mark from Hayden Slaughter. To their credit, the Colombians have shown patience, but you could feel that coming. On the near sideline, unable to toe that sideline, Torres is now marking Clark, who dishes up line. Fraser. James Mead marked by Afanador. Disc coming in on 2. First time today we've got some cloud cover. There is, last I saw, just a very minimal chance of rain, whereas yesterday it was something of a washout in the morning. GB, though, after falling behind 1-0, has scored 5 of the last 6 to lead Colombia 5-2. Philip Garner from Dominic Clark to create the score. And Colombia is really starting to feel the wrath of some of this Great Britain pressure defense. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 guys making a play there. It was all 7 working together to force that turnover in the eventual mistake from Colombia.
Yeah, I think it all started with the force. They were making sure that they were keeping a definite force and not allowing the Colombians to break. And actually, in the moment that they did break, they had to push it so far to the sideline that they were unable to make the play. I'd also commend the tight spaces that the GB are taking advantage of. Mead there breaking the force and finding a very tight space where Clark could then continue that break for the goal.
"40 minutes have transpired since the start of this game, and that's a lot considering the leading team only has 5 goals. If Great Britain averaged 5 goals every 40 minutes, we would not get to 15, more than likely. But you have a feeling that GB might be building the break train a little bit here with some momentum. Colombia with a mistake.
Yeah, I think that will stem from where the Stack had positioned themselves at the beginning of that point. They were very deep, leaving their handlers fairly isolated, which meant that throw had a bit too much time and easier to make an error on. Shaw now on the sideline.
Shaw called a foul, and I believe an apologetic marker. It was Ivan David Alba who repeatedly was saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Richard Harris lays it off. This is Bowen, the lanky right-handed thrower, back to Harris. Up line, Bowen. And you wonder if it was the wisest decision to lay out on the mark there, because the layout mark opened up the easy upline throw, and then the easy center, and then the easy goal. 6-2, Great Britain on a 6-1 run.
Yeah, some very smooth offense there. Starting from this sideline with Shaw, we can see the GB starting in a horizontal stack and immediately looking to break the mark and move that disc to the other side of the pitch. You'll hear often the furthest player in the horizontal stack will be calling for it because he's most likely being poached, and he can use that to his advantage, striking deep to make an undercut and make yards as well as swinging it. And that's one of those looks that GB look for often.
So GB with a faster score that time. The Brits with only one turnover in the last 5 points of this game. Certainly finding an offensive rhythm that hurt them early. Great Britain turned it over in each of its first 3 points of the game. Good to hear from Anthony Locke on Twitter, who writes, "Who needs to do work when you have the GB game on? Hashtag hope the boss doesn't see." Good to have you with us, Anthony. It's lunch hour, isn't it, here in London? And maybe Anthony's watching on the East Coast and it's 7 a.m. and he's but it's lunch hour in London, so that obliges everybody to take a break from work and watch some of the World Ultimate Championships that only happen in this format once every 4 years. Can Colombia punch back? Mario O'Brien, the American longtime Seattle Sockeye standout, has played in several World Championship games, USA Ultimate National Championship games. Crafty scuba to get it to some open space, unmarked, and a crossfield shot. Colombia was sending Esteban Zuluaga deep, but there was no angle for the throw to go off. With the cloud cover, it has cooled things off considerably. Temperature has dropped a good bit. Greatest bid there, but landed incomplete. Athletic move by Zuluaga. So GB on a 3-0 rally since it was a 3-2 game. It's been an impressive first half performance from Great Britain. Once they have settled in, it has been a full team effort, not just one player making things happen. I'm not sure if you could begin to choose an MVP of this first half for the Brits.
Yeah, this team is very deep, and I think you're right, I would definitely fail. Although Andy Hillman having a little moment there. This team has been a foul call, but yeah, this team is very, very deep, almost homogenous. There are, of course, some standout players, but we haven't really seen them do too much, and that's probably what they want to be doing in these games, making sure many players on the roster get some pitch time, get used to the intensity, preparing themselves for bracket play later on, hopefully.
That is the plan for Great Britain, the host country here at WUGC 2016. Have you had a chance to watch any of the guts so far?
Actually, I haven't. I've been definitely focusing on the Ultimate. I've heard some interesting stories about full sidelines and people enjoying the game. I also have no idea how the rules work, so I haven't had a chance to go and have a look, but I'm sure I will at some point.
Always good to have an honest broadcaster alongside. I haven't watched it closely. I've read the rules and have watched it peripherally, strolling to other Ultimate games. Certainly that is our number one priority, but it is intriguing to see the energy and the passion as this shot goes up, and it was a beauty. Great Britain 7-2. Tom Abrams with the catch, but it was the throw that was the story.
Yeah, Hayden Slaughter there, one of the non-Clapham players, a Brighton player, learned how to play at Sheffield Hallam, my rival university team, and a fantastic throw from him right into the path of Tom Abrams. But all of that stemmed from some very good defense from the GB team. They were sagging slightly off the open side handlers and forcing the Colombians to take on more risky shots towards the sidelines, hence causing them to go for that greatest. But well played GB, keeping that disc moving and eventually getting that goal on Tom Abrams.
Abrams, the 6'2" target, played at Warwick, excuse me. Began playing Ultimate in 2006 at Sixth Form College. Was teammates with Matt Hodgson, who we saw on the Great Britain mixed team. So it's interesting, you have the Colombian team on the ropes. After they led 1-0, they now trail 7-2. And that 1-0 start was a break. Colombia will receive to start the second half. If they could string an offensive hold and maybe one break together before half, and it was 8-4 at half, then they could hold to start the second half. There is a roadmap to get back into this game, and you have the leaders of the squad talking strategically. You have the rest of the team sort of parading around in song during the timeout, trying to maintain the positivity that you see in Ultimate and that positive enthusiasm and energy. But sometimes the energy and the tactical adjustment can only do so much against a team that has the depth and the size like Great Britain certainly possesses. Again, this is the first game of men's power pool action. Day 3 of competition. GB, the top seed in Power Pool K. Belgium and Singapore are the others. Watched Singapore a little bit against USA men yesterday, and it was a 15-4 game. You see that, you think it was an absolute rout. But I was pretty impressed watching the Singapore men. They had some very confident throwers. And the USA defense was incredibly tight, incredibly fast. In order to complete any pass against USA, it needed to be a precise bullet throw. Anything floaty, and you're in trouble. And Singapore, they only scored 4 times, but they were consistently moving the disc, gaining yards. It was impressive to see. Belgium, the other team in this pool, part of the European Ultimate scene. What's your thoughts on a potential Belgium GB matchup? We'll get back to that question after the D from Benjamin Funk as Great Britain looks to take half. Funk came up a little lame, and there's an injury as GB shoots it long. This is going to come back. It's caught, but an injury was called. I believe this is going to come back, although Great Britain feels like they have taken half. This will get resolved. Your thoughts on how Belgium stacks up with the rest of the men's field, in particular GB?
So they actually met last year at EUC. Belgium coming out the losers, obviously, as Great Britain went on to play Germany in the final. But they do have some very standout players, the likes of PJ Molinar and Mike Palmer, who is actually an ex-Brit. No, not our Mike Palmer. Strangely enough, they have met, and it's very strange seeing 2 Mike Palmers in one place.
Our Mike Palmer is a strange guy, so I don't know about the other Mike Palmer.
They are both strange, but this Mike Palmer, who lives in Belgium, is a very good thrower, and PJ Molinar, a very big receiver for the Belgians, and they've been training in the same way that the Brits have together for a couple of years now. Only very few club teams merging together to make that national team, and they are a force to be reckoned with.
Great Britain with the disc, looking to take half. Colin Shaw to the end zone for Sam Bowen. Tic-tac-toe down the field. They scored to take half twice, and after getting broken on the game's opening point, a dominant performance from GB as they lead 8-2 at the half. A quick reminder, many people are perceiving that tickets for the weekend here in London are sold out, but that is actually not the case. There are over 3,000 tickets remaining for Championship Saturday at Allianz Park. So if you are a fan of GB or a fan of Ultimate and would like to see the World Championship Games, on Saturday, you should get those tickets now because they will go fast. The local times, 9 a.m. Saturday, the men's bronze medal match, and that could be a pretty good game. At 11 a.m., the mixed final, 1:30 in the afternoon here in London, the women's final, and then 4 o'clock, the men's final. An incredible day of Ultimate at Allianz Park, which should provide just a great spectacle for the sport. We're looking forward to that, but not getting ahead of ourselves. We have another half and several more days left here at the fields in the Watford Football Club. So we'll take a break at the half. 8-2, the lead for Great Britain over Colombia. David and I will take a short intermission and be back with second half action here from London in just a short bit.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.
Second half about to begin as Great Britain leads Colombia 8-2 at the break. Very impressive first half from the Brits with only one turnover in their final 7 points of the half to go on a big run and take the lead. It'll be Colombia receiving the opening pull of the second half. Evan Lepler alongside David Price. And David, the question for you is, was it Colombia's off-kilter offense or Great Britain's relentless defense that deserves most of the credit for the first half result?
Sorry, just to interrupt there, an amazing mat catch there by the Colombian number 16. However, I think it was mostly the defense from Great Britain really applying pressure and forcing the Colombians to make those off-kilter decisions.
I would agree with you. The defense has not necessarily led to several spectacular blocks, but it has been very steady team defense. Collision downfield, might have been a pick.
I've just seen the coach here for Colombia, Angel, shouting at his sideline, trying to make them get involved and try and make them cut harder as well on the field.
This tap back into play. Pedro Torres. Took him a long time to pivot, and he had to give up about 10 yards. And a stall was called. Impossible for us to say whether or not he got it off. We could not hear the count. Fast count has been called. By the way, Jamie Cross probably has the mustache of the tournament so far. Incredible handlebar stash on the sidelines in front of us. Contested fast count on the mark. Coming in on 8. And the quick reset. Juan Felipe Diaz. We haven't even really seen Colombia try to huck in this game, almost like they know that game plan is fruitless. With GB's size downfield lingering, and I think consequently, David, that has allowed the Brits to be a little bit more aggressive on the unders and make those throws more difficult.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And actually, I think for the first time here, we can see Colombia really utilizing their short game. They're going back and forth, but so far they've been pushed back in a huge defensive bid by Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon laying out with probably the most spectacular defensive play of the game for GB. Crossfield, Gordon wide open. Abrams to the end zone and a diving catch for the score, Colin Shaw. This feels very much like a Great Britain rout forming on field 2. It's now 9-2 and a 9-1 run for the home country.
From a wonderful block to Ollie Gordon and a very visionary cross-pitch flick back to Gordon from Meade, sees GB really trying to dominate on both ends of the field. And right there at the end, we also see it a very typical Abrams throw, which is that knife across the pitch. He likes those tight angles, and if he sees a poach, I'm almost 100% certain that he'll throw that to that poach player.
On a windy day, those can be very difficult throws, but if you're feeling good and the team's mojo is in the right space, it feels like the disc has magnets toward the receiver's hands. So 9-2 now the score. And unless I'm mistaken, 9 different goal scorers. Well, Abrams has scored twice. So Abrams and then 7 other goal scorers for Great Britain. Yo, Abrams, Hillman, Wilson, Garner, Harris, Abrams, Bowen, Shaw. Shaw has a couple assists along with his most recent goal scoring grab. They had a man with some height running deep, but he was matched up with Sam Bowen. Now here's a huck, looking for Dan Turcotte, and well, you can see why Colombia has been so reluctant to take that shot. This game was 3-2, 5 points into the game. GB got it. Hillman the score. It's a 7-0 run for Great Britain.
And there we see that reluctance for the Colombians to huck has kind of paid off in Great Britain's favor. They had an option earlier on, which I think was probably a better one than the one they took. And when they did take it, Jake Aspin there, able to intercept and get a great D. And from then on, it was all about the fast break. GB moving the disc quickly from one side of the pitch to the other before Richard Raz was able to take on that deep shot and get it straight into the path of a streaking Andrew Hillman. As Evan mentioned earlier, this team is very homogenous. Where there are standout players, many players, other players are able to step in and fill roles. And right there is where we see that Raz to Hillman. We haven't heard much from them, but they are able to make plays and continue this scoring train we see from Great Britain.
So it's 10-2. Again, this game began with Great Britain getting broken. Distant memory right now. Colombia now just looking to build some positive momentum. They'll have games against Belgium and Singapore in the power pool. Julio Duque dishes off for Juan Felipe Diaz and a stoppage. One thing Colombia has struggled with is rediscovering their flow after a stoppage. And there have been enough stoppages in this game. Great Britain has certainly done a better job than Colombia in a lot of facets, but one of them has been their ability after stoppages, and here's another example. GB just has a read on Colombia's plan. Wilson to the sideline for Ford. Wilson right near the end zone for Parslow. Parsons, beg your pardon. And here's Ford. Rising backhand, well done. Justin Ford through the contact. Good spirit between Ford and Agudelo. And it's now 11-2. This is a performance from the GB defense that I was not sure they were capable of. And it's Colombia, it's not Canada, it's not Japan, it's not USA. But if Great Britain can replicate this defensive performance against some of the higher seeds, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, and I know from hearing from the players in training, they often play D-line versus O-line, and their D-line often wins. I mean, not just because they're able to get the disc off them, but they're able to play very well on offense and make sure that disc gets into the end zone. And whilst we see now Colombia trying to rile themselves up, we can also hear on the sidelines, so it's a very important part of playing defense. GB are playing a very active and audible sideline, and on the sideline, the Colombians are almost like silent. They're not giving their players information that could really help them get back in this game.
They've still got great spirit, though.
Yeah, I'm loving the singing along we got here. Let's just hope that they can move that onto the sideline and help their teammates out. So on the line now for GB, we have Gordon, Phil Johnson, James Mead, Hayden Slaughter, Sam Bowen, Chris Frazier, and I don't want to say Gash because that's his nickname, Richard Harris.
It's tough for you to transfer from nickname calling to real name calling. Not that we're not interested in hearing the nicknames too. What do they call you other than David?
I have a few silly nicknames from my university days, which I won't repeat here. However, my nickname is just DP, which is just my initials. Most players in the UK call me that now.
Not all that exciting, but simple and direct and appropriate and catchy. Evan Lepler alongside DP. Field level. As Great Britain now 4 scores away from their 4th straight win of the tournament. Certainly Mauricio Martinez, the man they call Choco, has been very, very quiet. Still relentless defensive pressure from Britain on the unders, making every throw a challenge. Up the line, good idea there. Prieto. Choco. Alba. Prieto. Diaz. You hear them yelling, Corriendo on the sidelines, run. They need to run hard. Star count rising. Prieto gets the reset to Diaz. Afanador. You can see the legs of Colombia tiring downfield. They've been cutting hard for the better part of 2-3 minutes. They've moved into Great Britain territory, but they just can't find that critical opening. They're playing smart in not pursuing the deep shot, but it's making them fairly one-dimensional offensively. And Great Britain, to their credit, has sensed that. Mourinho dishes it off. Martinez up the line. Tremendous layout bid. Looks like a foul was called. It was Ollie Gordon again. Looked like a really nice play.
Yeah, that gave me shivers. That play was almost hip height. But give a foul given up. And what I have noticed is that like Evan says, and there we go. There's the turnover. What? Oh, the player is down. It looks like he got a bit of a knock on the head, but he's okay. As Evan was saying, it looks like the Colombians are scared of the deep shot, and they tend to prefer trying to break the mark early, and GB are doing a very hard job of trying to stop that. And the only moment that they let that go was where we saw the force just took a step too far on the open side to then break down the line, and that was the only time GB have let off.
Well, GB nearly had its first turnover since the score was 3-2. GB has not turned it over ever since the 6th point of the match. 7 straight turnover-free points for Great Britain. Sam Bowen was a coach for the Great Britain under-17 team back in 2014. Teaches at the Royal Dubai School. And I know Justin Ford has family. His mother is in Dubai, so when the Great Britain team went to Dubai for Beach Worlds last year, most of the team just stayed at Justin's mother's house.
Yeah, and you'll often see holiday pics from Dubai of Justin playing golf, along with some of the other GB lads. I've actually got another shout out quickly for I think it's Brian. Let's get his name right. Brian McKevitt, who's a previous Clapham player who's watching back in Ireland.
Maybe the first great D on an under from Julio Duque in Colombia of the game to get the disc back. Love to hear from you via Twitter at Evan Lepler or at David_Price, Pryce. And an injury on the field. David, part of the show game coverage. How did the show game start? I don't even know this story.
Well, for those who don't know, myself and Josh Coxon-Kelly started the show game back 4 years ago as a sort of skied magazine of the UK, and writing pieces, getting photographers together, and now we did under 23s very successfully with online media, written pieces, as I say, photographers, and yet again we've been welcomed to do WGC here in London, and you'll see around the fields some of the photographers in their white shirts with the show game on the front. If you're a player, feel free to ask them to take a snap of your team. If you want a story about your team, do approach us. We're doing all sorts of pieces over the week, as well as tweeting and Instagramming to make sure fans at home can get the full rounded experience.
When you started the show game 4 years ago, did you imagine that you would become such a celebrity here in Great Britain?
I wouldn't claim to be a celebrity. I'm much too modest for that. But a lot of my friends might think I guess I am. But no, I would never have thought that, and I never did it for that reason.
Well, here in London, everyone knows DP. The autograph seekers are voracious and aggressive. Usually he requires extra security. But folks here at the fields have been very respectful, and we will get a timeout called with Great Britain leading 11-2, and more singing from the Colombians.
Whilst I might be fighting off the signatures, Evan, what does it feel like to be known as the voice of Ultimate?
I think I'm one of many voices of Ultimate, and it is an honor. It is an absolute honor. Never dreamed of being at the World Championships, commentating with Colombia and Great Britain and the Czech Republic and Canada and all the countries that are here, all 39 of them, from top seeds like Team USA and Japan to the lesser developed ultimate countries like Israel and South Africa and India. And it has been a thrill and a joy to be able to contribute and to be able to learn. And really, that's all I can say. It is, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's certainly cool to be recognized by people, but to me, that just means that there are more people out there that care about Ultimate. I mean, maybe they care about me, maybe they don't, but I want people to care about Ultimate because I care about Ultimate. I think you do, and anyone watching the stream does as well, and that's the sport that we're trying to share with the world that we know about and not enough people know about. And gradually, one day at a time, we're doing it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and that's kind of one of those reasons that we started these things, like the Kickstarter, the show game, Sky, all these people that care about Ultimate and want to share it with the world. And I hope you guys are enjoying the stream at home. And if you have any points, you want to see certain things, give us a shout out. Tell us where you're watching. Tell us, share those links. Really promote the sport for what it is. A fantastic collection of great people who understand how this sport is played and why this sport is played, and the community is fantastic throughout the whole world.
This deep shot caught by Great Britain. James Mead in the end zone, quickly striking off the timeout. 12-2. Once again, the World Flying Disc Federation's free streaming coverage of the 2016 World Ultimate Championships from London has been brought to you by VC Ultimate, proud to be the official merchandise partner of the World Flying Disc Federation, by Eric teaching youth about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics, and by the members of USA Ultimate and the World Flying Disc Federation.
I don't know what you've done, Evan, but you've started a Twitter furor already. Thanks, Steve Jaguar, but actually you're my hero.
Well, I did not start anything. This movement, the David Price movement, has started long before I ever came to the United Kingdom. Hashtag David Price movement. So Great Britain leading by 10 and on their way to a convincing victory against Team Colombia. Your Twitter's erupting right now, isn't it? Sam Brown is a fan. Sam Brown realizes the honor of sharing a roof with David Price. So Colombia moving the disc. Mario O'Brien resets. It's a Colombia team that knocked off Spain in an exciting game in the opening rounds of pool play. Also beat Israel 15-7. Australia winning Pool G over Colombia. Australia had an impressive 45-23 goal differential in its first 3 games. Of course, Canada was 45-13. GB was 45-16 in its first few games. And there's a stoppage now, as you can see the medical cart comes onto the field checking the injury on the sidelines. David is busy to my side trying to navigate with his life of paparazzi one day after another. The Twitter paparazzi in particular are really embracing the David Price movement hashtag. Here's GB. Nice one-handed grab from Magnus Wilson. This win for the Brits certainly is a bit of a luxury in that, with the score the way it is, they're able to relax some of their stars. Great Britain does have another game scheduled later today. Great Britain, the top seed out of the B pool, so they will actually play first thing tomorrow against Belgium. Travel called, and they'll be going against, I believe, New Zealand later on this afternoon. 3:30 local time, 15:30 here in London. The pools and the brackets are confusing even for the players and coaches, although that is stereotypically ultimate to have everyone not really sure what the format might be. And even for someone like myself who strives aggressively to understand what is going on, it has been a struggle at times, but I think I'm beginning to get the knack of it. And I was mistaken. It's not New Zealand, it's Singapore, of course, that Great Britain will play later this afternoon. So Great Britain's next game against Singapore. Colombia will face Belgium. And then Great Britain against Belgium tomorrow morning at 9:30. Some really good games tomorrow morning in the men's division at 9:30, David. USA is going to play Australia, and there's also going to be Japan versus Canada. That's the round where kind of the pool winners go against each other. And then there'll be another top seed crossover after the power pool play concludes. I've already had some arguments with Brian Jones over which game we should stream, USA Australia or Japan versus Canada. Great Britain versus Belgium could be fun too, but we're streaming the Brits right now. David just sort of whispered that he thinks Japan-Canada is the more intriguing game, and he might be right. It might be a better time of day to stream that 9:30 a.m. game. Although you're still going to have one country from the Far East and one country from the West. So either USA or Canadian fans will be waking up very, very early, or they'll be watching the game on replay. 50-50 disc in the end zone, and it's been Great Britain's day. Oh, Ashley Yo climbs the ladder for the score.
I actually think GB a bit lazy there and taking on a hospital pass, and I could hear Tom Abrams on the sideline here complaining that the offensive players were not using their triangles, and by that he means that once they've thrown the disc for the reset, they're not looking to strike down the line to get power positions, hence then isolating someone with the disc, and that's what happened there. They left too much time before they started making cuts, and hospital pass had to be made. I'm just going to go back to Twitter very quickly because it's going a bit silly now because of a certain Mr. Lepler. But let's go back through these people. What have I got? Here we go. So John Harkup, I'd like to see a full game of Ultimate past 90 minutes at the slot if that could be sorted. I think he's being a bit cheeky there and saying that this game is going to go by too quickly. And just to reply to Tony Leonardo, I will start drinking and lighten up at some point, but not right now. This is a professional broadcast. We're going to make sure we do it right.
It is, after all, only 12:57 local time. Usually after 1 o'clock is when David begins his enjoyment of the day. There will be another great showcase game later today on the stream. Team USA Masters Women against the Japanese Masters Women, and certainly several members of both of those Masters teams were part of the women's division teams that competed in the finals back in 2012. So that should be fun. Tom Stiles and Megan Multeny expected to have the call of that one. David and I will be in slightly less serious heckling roles later on today. And as you can imagine, David Price can heckle with the best of them.
Yeah, I look forward to the traditional flip-flop, the left-right flip-flop calls, and maybe even some bink calls. But right now, Sam Bowen with a lovely grab there, but a foul called, the disc going back. I'm sure Amy Channon watching in Dubai will have enjoyed that. Her boyfriend, number 12 there, playing for GB.
It has been a 10-0 run for Great Britain since the game was 3-2 after 5 scores. Frankly, I'm a little impressed with Colombia's ability to not huck it. They've only launched maybe 2 or 3 hucks the entire game, and the unders have been so difficult and frustrating, and yet they continue to grind down the field. That takes a certain mental mettle. Don't try to say that 5 times fast. David just tried and failed miserably here to my right. To the brink of the end zone. Stall count high, lefty backhand. And there's a goal for the Colombians. First goal since the early stages of the first half. They continue to grind, building toward their upcoming games against Belgium and Singapore, which certainly Colombia feels will both be winnable, and they're trying to build toward that now.
Yeah, I was expecting like a massive celebration when they got that goal, but Colombia taking their time, taking on some nice little options. I'd even be tempted. I kind of want them to start hucking now, because they've played this under so much, and the athleticism and grit of the GB defense has stopped them taking on the option that they want, and that short game really isn't working for them. I mean, that's the only goal they've got in this half so far. Yeah, they've been unable to score here since the 5th point, and GB maybe just calming down a little bit, knowing they've got the win in the bag, but really they should just make sure they finish this game off strong ahead of their other powerful games here in London.
So 13-3, Great Britain leading Colombia. Great Britain hasn't had too many offensive points. When they've had them, they have looked smooth. Didn't take that long for Great Britain to make it 14-3 after Colombia's first goal of the second half. There will be some interesting men's action later this afternoon that may not necessarily be streamed. Let's check out some of the matchups on the schedule for this afternoon. You have the Australian men taking on the Czech Republic men. Australia will be the favorite there for sure. You have Japan after a Pool D victory. I beg your pardon, you have Germany after a Pool D victory going up against Sweden. The Japanese won Pool E, which gives them a matchup against France later this afternoon. So Colombia needs to score, otherwise Great Britain will break to win. Prieto. You know, I think one conclusion that we can make from this game, and it's a very presumptive conclusion, and certainly shouldn't be looked at as a hard law, but you know, if Great Britain were to match up with Australia, certainly GB was much more dominant against Colombia than Australia was. Ooh, good bid, but better pass, and Colombia has its 4th goal, still trailing by 10.
I think both teams now are coasting slightly there. They know that the gap is potentially too large at this point in the day. and they're maybe just thinking about their next few games for the power pools. GB definitely not playing the high, ferocious defense they were playing in the first half and the middle of this game. But now they'll finish this game on offense.
So Great Britain versus Singapore later today, but GB trying to finish off Colombia right now. Who we got on the final offensive line here, David?
From left to right, we have Stobbs, Parsons, Parslow, Cheeseman, Yo, Wilson, and Ford. Almost entirely Clapham, except Parsons, who's a Chevron player.
What's it going to take for Chevron to overtake Clapham at some point?
I think they just have a mental block. They really don't seem to. They're a very good team, and I think they have the skill set to do so. But I just think they need to think and believe that they can beat them, and put that all together in a perfect game to beat Clapham.
That'll be a special day when it happens, although the majority of this Great Britain national team will be working against that as Clapham participants.
And I mean, there are other teams that can do it, and in the past, teams have done a very good job. The likes of Brighton, Fire of London have also been close in a number of years past. So it can happen from anyone. They just have to put it all in one place and make sure that they can get them on a bad day.
It's Parslow with the disc. Clapham player is DP mentioned. Parslow is the MVP of Nationals in 2013. Great Britain so far with only 1 turnover in the second half, only 5 turnovers in the game, and 3 of them were in the first 3 points. And they'll finish the game with just 5 turns and a convincing 11-goal victory. The final score, Great Britain 15, Colombia 4, as Ashley Yo hauls in the game-winning score from Magnus Wilson. David, I imagine you expected Great Britain to win, perhaps not by the margin that they did. What were your takeaways from this lopsided match?
Yeah, like you say, Evan, I did expect GB to win, but I expected it to be much closer and for the Colombians to hold at an intensity level throughout the whole game, and they didn't. They went a bit flat in the middle, and GB just took advantage of that. And I think it just demonstrated the depth that GB have throughout their whole squad, which basically overpowered the Colombians throughout that game.
So that is the first men's power pool game for Great Britain and Colombia. Great Britain coming out of Pool B with a 3-0 record. Now in Pool K, 1-0. And they will play Singapore this afternoon and Belgium tomorrow. So again, the final score, 15-4. Great Britain over Colombia for our entire Field 2 crew, and for David Price and all of his loyal supporters and the massive growing following, hashtag David Price Movement. This is Evan Lepler saying so long from London for now. More coverage later today as USA Women's Masters takes on Japan, 5:30 local time. That's 12:30 in the afternoon on the East Coast and 9:30 a.m. Perfect time on a Tuesday morning on the West Coast for Ultimate followers to slack off from work and watch some Ultimate. So for now, on behalf of our entire crew, we say goodbye. GB over Colombia in convincing fashion. And so long for now, everybody.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.